Now, SMMEs are the engine of the economy and an important source of jobs as they contribute about 30% to GDP. Now, to get reaction about the impact of the mid-term budget on small business in South Africa, I'm joined by small business owner Manqoba Zungu, as well as CEO of GetReadySkills. Manqoba, good evening and thank you very much for joining us on the Newsfeed Late Night. When you take a glance at the speech and everything else that has come after it, do you get a sense that any thought at all or any priority was given to SMEs?
Thank you for having me, Thabo, and good evening to the viewers. In my view, there's an English evangelist that once said, the opportunity of a lifetime needs to be taken in the lifetime of the opportunity. And for me, the crisis that we are in is an opportunity of a lifetime for us to really radically change, the business model of governments, to change the delivery model of government, to change the focus areas of government. And I believe that the minister probably missed the trick in the speech today. There was hardly any focus around specific areas that SMMEs will benefit from. So yes, they speak about an infrastructure-led economic recovery, but we don't know how SMMEs are going to benefit. So, I think back to 2010 when there was a whole lot of infrastructure development in the building of stadiums. But, what we saw there was just a whole lot of looting from big companies and big business, and the SMMEs weren't catered for. So I really hope that, as they unpack the budget in the upcoming press conferences, they really will focus more around what is it that is being ring-fenced for SMMEs? Because as you said, SMMEs are the backbone of the economy, Thabo.
I try to go through the summary and just go through some of what is being said around business. I battle to find stuff, but the only mention that I could come up with here is the loan guarantee scheme, which will be disbursed. The finance minister saying after extensive consultation between the Banking Association, National Treasury and the South African Reserve Bank, work is underway to review the loan guarantee scheme to improve take-up. I will also be working with colleagues in Cabinet to boost business restart efforts. What do you make of that, and what has been the stumbling block to take up of this loan guarantee scheme?
100%. So, and I think we're actually reaching now when we're trying to even use that as a reference to business. We're just trying to find something because there's hardly any mention. And even that is mentioned, is the unsaid in that paragraph is that the take-up has been quite low because of, again, the restrictive practices that have been put in place under the loan guarantee scheme. So if we are wanting to, use the loan guarantee scheme to boost business and boost the economy, yet we're still using the old proverbial criteria, that is crowding out a lot of the SMMEs, then the impact is not going to be felt, So it's something that we had spoken about quite strongly before when the loan guarantee scheme was started. And I'm hoping that this time around they really do relook those criteria so that they benefit the SMMEs, because currently it's just all talk, but the impact on the ground is not being felt.
Yeah. Do you think it's something that he just put in there in the speech? He says amongst the things that they will need to do, of course, to grow the economy is make it easier to do business. We must remove the needlessly complex red tape that increases costs of doing business. It's something that he says all the time. It's something that has been said in many of the budget speech. Are they just throwing it there, or do they really have a real plan of how they're going to do that?
100%. We've heard this many times before, Thabo. And as I was saying about the opportunity of a lifetime, for me, speaking about reducing and removing the red tape, how, I would have liked to hear the minister say that, for example, agriculture, tourism, identify a few industries that are going to be the catalyst to us, being on the upward trajectory again, and say that how, those industries and SMMEs in those industries are going to benefit, and they're going to be supported from a training perspective, from a funding perspective, the criteria for funding being reduced or eased, so that the SMMEs can benefit. But more importantly, Thabo, we've been speaking about the 4IR for a while, so for me, this is the time to then, put the 4IR into action, digitalize, the tender processes, digitalize the matching of suppliers and providers. Digital. I mean, we're already doing that in the employment space, where if there's a vacancy, you are able to use algorithms and AI to match the right applicants. Why can't we do that for business as well? Because then that's how you start eating into the corruption that currently is taking up a whole lot of the budgets that are out there. So for me, the proof is in the pudding, or the actions need to follow what the ministers are saying. How's about we create a marketplace where the government provides a marketplace or an ecosystem, entrepreneurial ecosystem that actually allows SMMEs and gives them access to markets, but not just local markets, global markets, right? Because the government has got the opportunities, the government has got the resources to do that. Let's stop just giving the grants, which is more from a consumerism perspective. Let's start empowering SMMEs to access new markets and sell their products globally. Those are the things that we need to be thinking about. But currently, we're just doing the same old, giving people grants and just making people consumers, but not empowering them to be producers.
Look, that environment of doing business that has changed cannot be overstated. I mean, the minister also saying we need some ingenuity and adaptability as far as business is concerned. Making an example of the budget speech itself was done in Parliament in a hybrid form, while others were online and so on and so forth, which speak to a new way of doing business. Is business ready for that environment and that atmosphere? And small businesses in particular, have they adjusted to that type of economy?
I mean, I would say yes and no. I mean, of course, it's difficult to speak about small businesses generically. There are different sectors that have adjusted, that have pivoted, but there are sectors that are still struggling to adjust and to pivot, and it's exactly those sectors that are saying that perhaps need the intervention of governments to assist them from an access to market perspective, but also from a training perspective, Thabo. I mean, we're not saying that the government is not doing anything, but some of the SMMEs actually don't even know the initiatives that they qualify for that government has got available. So it's about training and, putting the information and educating the SMMEs on what is it that is out there. So, the environment of business is changing, and I truly hope that as a country, we take, advantage of this. And also the training of the staff members in the government institutions, because the minister can say something, the Minister of Finance can say something, and the Minister of a particular sector, say tourism, can paint the vision. But if we then start engaging with the foot soldiers on the ground, and they're not educated and they're not wired to think, from this new normal, then again the impact on the ground is not felt. So the full value chain, Thabo, has to be taken care of.
Yeah. From an entrepreneur's point of view, if you were to make an appeal, if it's an appeal, or if you were to give advice because after this budget speech, of course, the work that really needs to be done is in the various departments. So if a department has got a policy, if Spectrum, for example, has got to be released and made cheap, we know that during COVID-19 we did learn that actually internet should have been a whole lot cheaper. It would have helped us and we would have done things a whole lot easier. And those are the people that now need to take those policies seriously and implement them on the ground. What would you say?
As you mentioned, it's about implementation. So I think we're very good at crafting policies in this country and strategic documents and all these buzzwords. But the implementation is where we falter. So for me, I'd be more keen to see and understand what the implementation plan is, what the deadlines are, what the timelines are, and also just the dependencies, because to your point, a particular department can speak about, digitalization, but if the spectrum is not released, then the data costs are too high and the whole strategy falls flat. So I think for me, it's about how we're going to implement, what are the dependencies, what are the deadlines, so that we as the citizens can then hold the government to account. I mean, from a jobs perspective, I don't know how many times the job target has been revised all the time, and all that happens when there's a new speech is just a revisal of the new targets. So for now, for me, implementation is the key. We've got plenty of policies in this country, plenty of bright minds, but it just falters in the implementation.
Manqoba Zungu, I appreciate your time tonight and sharing the perspective of an entrepreneur who is directly affected, of course, by the decisions made in government today.